All right. So let's jump into this. So we're kind of building a momentum of this conversation, right? So let's talk about this idea about branding hyper-locally. When you say that, what does that mean to you?
Absolutely. Before we jump,
and did y'all kind of get together beforehand on your suits there?
So we got to wear suits, yeah, absolutely.
I think he's got your beat on the shirt, though, buddy. Just so you know.
Well, hey, before we get started, I just want to say how pumped I am to be up here on stage.
We're pumped that you're here, buddy.
And I'm new to Keller Williams. I came over here in December, and I'm super, super pumped to be here at Keller Williams.
Okay, there we go.
I really appreciate it. The funny thing about this, though, is coming up here, I wasn't sure whether I was whether I was more nervous about being in front of 10,000 people or being just in front of you.
Talk to me.
This is the Steve Jobs of real estate.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyways, well, thank you for having me here.
No, you're welcome. So let's talk about hyper-locally for a second.
So hyper-locally for me is, I work in a small area called East Sacramento, and it's broken down by 2 zip codes. And so I work 95819 and 95816, and those are my 2 zip codes. All of my marketing dollars go to those 2 zip codes, and that is it. As we all know, we get calls all week long from people trying to sell us a product or a service. And we can give you all of Sacramento. I go, can you break it down to 95819 and 95816? And if they say no, I say, thank you so much, it doesn't fit my business model. So my business model is focusing specifically on those 2 zip codes.
You know, it's interesting, what you're practicing is Waltonism. If you ever read the book about Sam Walton's life, the big aha you get, and I won't bore you with the story because we don't have time, but honestly, that's what he did, guys. What made him a genius was he defined his market narrow so he could dominate. That's why Walmart went to all the small towns first, because they could build a brand and completely dominate. If you put in the right product, then they would have market share that would be hard for someone to get away. And that was his agenda. That's why he went there.
Right.
Yeah. Crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So everything that we do is specifically close to something.
Gotcha. All right. Push all your marketing dollars to zip codes, use branded publications in those zip codes. So I think we have some examples. What are we looking at here?
So print, you know, some people can believe in print and some people don't. Again, our neighborhood is kind of this, it was built in the 20s and the 30s, and people are very proud to be in that neighborhood. And it's a very small area, but there's 2 print publications that go out into those zip codes. This is actually my 2 most expensive pieces, is the print. And it was hard to stay committed to print because it's kind of a thing of the past. But this print gets delivered to every home in our neighborhood. And
print is not the thing of the past, oddly enough. It's simply no longer the dominant means of conveying information. But it has not gone away, nor will it go away. I'm certain of that. I don't know what percent, but it does still work.
And the interesting thing is, what I use these pieces for more so is I use these in my listing appointments. And I use this as a listing tool, and people love to be a part of this, and then I tell them, oh, you'll be a featured listing, and that gets them excited about it. And then the other thing is that I use it for a soft close. So what I'll say is, you know, our print advertising is coming out. I need to know by the 9th of this month if you're going to move forward with us. And so it's a very, very soft close, and they're excited because they don't want to miss that paper. So that's exciting.
Is it a local paper then?
It's a local paper. It gets delivered to all the homes in the neighborhood specifically.
So that's one of the, you'll hear that as a recurring theme among top people who farm and specialize in an area, is they find whatever is hyper-local that people absolutely swear by. And it's more newsletters or newspapers than you imagine. It's not all digital.
Yeah. And they're all little newspapers. The newspaper in those small communities thrives.
Yeah. It's one of my best ROI pieces too. It's the one piece that I can go back to when people say, a lot of times they'll say, how did you hear about us? The standard answer now is the series everywhere. But that is the one piece that I've stayed traditional to for years because early on was a piece that I could always go back to. This is just an example of, and I don't know exactly how all the slides are in here, but this is an example of in our neighborhood, every year there's a big holiday home tour where they take 5 homes and they decorate them in the holiday spirit, and they bring vendors in and designers in, and it's literally like 10,000 people come through that neighborhood that weekend. And so we are a major sponsor for that event. This is an example.
What does that mean?
So
I'm just curious. What does that mean?
We get, as a major sponsor, you get the most publicity. You get typically the best spots, and your name's recognized. But more importantly, too, we're invited to all the events as well. So now we're meeting the people who are the movers and the shakers of the neighborhood, because typically when...
Theoretically, you are sponsoring this event.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And you're behaving that way.
Yes, and so it costs a little bit more money to sponsor an event, but for example, this is on the back page of this brochure. And so I've got 10,000 people who I have a 50-50 chance of them seeing it. Because when you go inside, you're still paying a good amount of money to go inside. It doesn't cost you that much more to be the guy on the back. And when you're on the back, when somebody throws it on the counter, it usually sits there for a while. I got 50-50 chance of being up. And, so I always spend a little bit more money to get it on the back. The other thing, too, is...
If you're hyper-local, this makes sense. When you're not hyper-local, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah. And then the other piece about anytime I do something or I sponsor, I always get first right of refusal for the next year.
Of course.
Always.
That's the secret.
Yeah, because all your competitors want to steal your space. That space right there,
the long term.
My biggest competitor is double how much I paid to get that space, and they can't get it. So, this is just very simple, just listed card, just sold card. What I'll do a lot of times is I'll put 2 or 3 on one to save my costs. So I'll bring it down by putting them on the same one.
Right.
But it also shows a level of high activity by doing a just listed or just sold card. But why this one is important is because we have a neighborhood, part of our neighborhood is called the Fab 40s, where all the $1 million properties are located. And we've been fortunate enough to grab a good chunk of that market. So for the last 6 years, we've sold more over $900,000 in that neighborhood than anybody else. So, but what I was finding was I was starting to get this reputation for only wanting to deal with high luxury homes.
Sure.
And to be honest with you, in my neighborhood, the bread and butter is the $400,000 homes. And so I had to kind of change a little bit how I was going after this. So the big $1 million homes only get sent out to the big $1 million neighborhood. So
you don't send it to everybody.
I don't send it to everybody. And then I take that $400,000 and $500,000 and I mark it to the $400,000 and $500,000 because that was not working for me because I was starting to lose business.
That's smart. You're building a reputation around your price with the people who are in that price.
Correct.
That's smart. That's exactly right. And by the way, if you're doing luxury, you still have to have a fallback position.
Well,
you have to.
You want to know what's interesting about this? One of my competitors, she put all her eggs in one basket, and she went after this. And really, in our neighborhood, there's only about 23 of the big dogs that come out a year, and she's got to get a good chunk of that. And what happened was she lost the bread and butter, and she started to feel like she was up here. Well, that market slowed down, and when that slowed down, she couldn't grab this part again. She was done. That's right.
And you see that way too many times.
It goes back to what you said at the shift. What you lose, you never regain.
It's tough. It's really tough. And having luxury in any market, having a piece of luxury is something you will want. But by the way, being exclusively luxury is rare air. It's very hard to find communities that you can sustain that alone. So as a rule of thumb, don't do it.
And what's interesting, you mentioned celebrity. Every neighborhood's different. So some neighborhoods will thrive on celebrity. She thought she was becoming a mini celebrity, started to act like a mini celebrity. And I think when you remain humble, you're going to be much better in the long run.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, absolutely. That's right. Let's see, we have other examples here.
It just sold, so we move past them. Again.
Well, you're sure selling a lot.
Yeah. That's an example of one of the other papers that we do with the other publications that's out there. as simple as our church bulletin. So what we're doing is we literally we sponsor every little league team that's out there. And the reason why I do some of these things is, like the Little League, I can get my sign now out in the outfield, and it can be out there for sometimes 12 months out of the year, and I'm only paying $700 to $800 to sponsor a team. And the field is being utilized for all different kinds of activities throughout the year. So I'm always looking for inexpensive ways to have something stay out there longer. I'm not a one-hit wonder guy on, hey, let me just go run this for 1 day or 2 days and then it's gone. So everything's kind of purposeful where I put it. Obviously this is, the church, so to give back to the church naturally, but we're there, and we're there every single Sunday, 3 times a day, for that publication right there.
Well, strategic giving, right? Right. Is a real concept.
Absolutely.
Adam Grant, we had him at family reunion last year. We talked about give and take.
About that.
He is so right. Giving is good, and giving strategically is letting the giving give back to you.
Right. And this is just another example of working with the schools. So we sponsor, I said, a holiday tour. We sponsor a garden tour for another school. We sponsor a reading program for another school.
So these become modes, right? Warren Buffett talks about this, monopolies and modes. These are the two ways when you go to invest money, you want to invest in businesses that have monopolies and modes. And what all three of you are doing is you're creating modes. Modes meaning that you've dug a hole, filled it with water, and your competitors can't cross it. They can't get to your business. They can't get to your people because A, you're consistent, you're not leaving. And number two, you've taken positions in the market today that they either can't or won't. And as such, it becomes a barrier to them getting in there and taking business from you. Because they can't do it. Right? It's the hallmark of great business, Tony. Build a moat. Build as many moats as you can. Just
by
keep.
the way, see that little maker in the very bottom?
What?
I stole her. She's my buyer's agent now.
Oh, awesome. Okay. I was fixing to have to leave. Okay, got it. Okay, I was going to say, what's up with that?
And as you said, this is it's been around for 1 million years, but it works. I send these out 3 times a year. I send out 6,000 of them.
It still works.
So
it still works.
Yeah.
The calendar or a notepad or something that is that memorable thing. Get it as cheap as possible, and just put it into your budget and get it out.
So I blast 6,000 of them. It's not that expensive. I use a company that GPSes all their clients, so I know where they're at. Interesting enough, if you look at the green dot down there, it's recycled paper. I really strongly prefer you do recycled paper, otherwise you'll get nasty grams on your voicemail. Interesting enough, it costs more to put it on recycled paper.
That's crazy. That's awesome.
This again is just our bus benches, which we've worked for 11 years to put them in strategic locations. We move them, and now we are in just the prime spots.
It's a moat. It's a moat, and it works only because you're hyperlocal. It doesn't work as well.
Yeah.
Now, by the way, though, over time you can go from hyperlocal to really massive, and it can still work.
And that's what I'm working on. That's why
it does.
Keller legs.
Yeah. My son goes to the University of Georgia, and we're coming in from taking him back to school for his last semester. Yes. And all of a sudden I drive by and I see this, and there's Mark Spain, Keller Williams billboard massively, and it's in Atlanta, right? You're going, hold it, does that really work? Well, if you've been in business long enough and you've built out like that, it actually does work. If you try to do that in the beginning, it doesn't work very well.
Right. Think big, start small.
That's right. Right. And then let it grow out. Yeah, you can get bigger if you want. All right.
We've got 11 of those in the neighborhood. And then this is, again, just examples. We're on the back page of every one of them. And anything that we do, we're on the back page every time. And it really does not cost that much more to get there. This is kind of funny. So I'm known as the Otter Pop King in our neighborhood. So in June of every year, we have what's called Pops in the Park. And Pops in the Park, we have 4 major parks in our neighborhood, and every Saturday a different band comes in, and the whole entire community comes out and is in